Let's go, everybody. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the LA Poker Roundup. As always, I am your host, Ty Dobberton, along here with my co host, Derek Kwan.
What's up, everyone?
It is August 13th, 2024, and this is episode 50 of the LA Poker Roundup. Whew, man, I hope there aren't any earthquakes this week, but I mean, there's been quite a few. There was another one just like yesterday, I think, right? And that we could feel.
Yeah,
I
that was a
signed.
bad one yesterday, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't feel it up where I was up at work in Palmdale, but I signed up for the Twitter site that just like tweets you every time there's a earthquake in the area from some
Oh
other
yeah,
info. Man, there's all these little ones all the time. You don't even realize it. It's crazy.
right. Yeah, I follow like LA QuakeBot or something.
Yeah, I
And
think that
yeah,
might
it's
be
just
it. Yep, I wasn't
constant
doing it before, but
earthquakes everywhere. Yeah.
it's nuts. Okay, so assuming there's no earthquakes, what do we got going on this week? Well, we're gonna start out with results from around the area and some live updates from the mini mega going on at the bike as we speak.
And when is late registration too late? So definitely something that we've covered before, but there was a pretty good article that was put out about it, and we wanted to chat about that a little bit more.
Yeah, and also, why is it too late? What's good about late reg? When's it bad? These kind of things. So we'll give it a little chat. And after that, Hendon Mob finally got the results from the first couple months here of the Legends series. So I was able to put out the first update for the LA Poker Roundup Player of the Year. So if you haven't seen that yet, check it out on the website. Check out the links. We have it on our Twitter, and we will take a look at the top of the results and talk about what's going on there and who's ahead.
And in the LA poker community, we actually had a lot of local news and gossip going on this week, so we're going to cover some of those topics as well.
Yeah, maybe because it's slow news national, but like there was a lot of juicy stuff flying
Yeah.
around in them streets if you're out there with your ear to the ground. And after
Yeah.
that, we will hit what's coming up this weekend, including the return of the famous shrimp tower at the bike, something I have never experienced, and we'll hit the
Oh
rest
wow.
of that roundup.
Yeah, super exciting.
Yeah, I'm
I'm so
excited.
happy it's back. Yeah.
I'm excited, man. I can't wait. All right, let's jump right in. So this week we didn't get a lot of results from around the community, but we did get, Kevin over at the Gardens did provide us with at least one. The Friday night, the 5 p.m. tournament there, they had 148 entries for a nearly $30,000 prize pool. So handedly beat their 20K guarantee. It ended in a 9-way chop, which is understandable. This thing starts at 5. It's probably like 2:30, 3 o'clock when that happened. So the top 5, congratulations to Lewis Moore for over $5,000. Number 2, Larry Tran, go figure, for 3.3. Number 3, Sal Keeve, 3.3, who won this thing last week. So he's on a
Wow.
nice little roll here.
Yeah.
Number
What a
4, Ahmad Degala for $3,000. And look at number 5, our man Jeremy
Oh
Hamey,
my
also for
God.
around 3K. Jeez.
This guy is unbelievable. He's literally the Gardens End boss man.
He really is. I mean, what is that, like 4 final tables now in the last 2 weeks or something there? Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy. That's crazy. I don't know why you play anywhere else. I don't think I would until I was rich. But yeah, congratulations, man. That just and just to say that's very impressive because these aren't like honestly like these aren't like the 60 person 65 30 70 40 person like dailies they have in some of these Vegas places.
Yeah.
Nothing to take away. Winning's very very hard, but a lot of the ones that the other Jeremy was winning, I'm pretty sure were sub 80 people like routinely. The other week I think
Yeah.
they maybe even missed a guarantee up there. So these are
Right.
big tournaments. These are all 150 to 250 person tournaments over at the Garden. So,
Yeah.
way to go, our man. All right. So, there weren't any other really results that we can report on that finished, but as I said a second ago, we are currently in the middle of the mini mega. So the mini mega is in its day 3. I've been watching the results, and man, I saw on day 2B, this man bagged up the 2B chip lead. Look at this guy. What a year he's having. We already talked about him.
Yeah, man.
He got that, was it second or third in that 10K PLO for like 600 grand. Now he's in here. He bagged the day 2 lead, and he was still in it at 63. And just for those of you who don't know, that's Johnny Bowers, man. I think he was on the Commerce stream the other day too. I think they were calling him John
Oh, was he?
English. Yeah, I think they were calling him John
Huh.
English. They're doing a round of
Nice.
each of Hold'em and PLO, so he was in there probably trying to. He probably did well. I didn't catch the whole stream, but
Yeah.
let's see. We are here with 27 left. So let's take a look at the final 27. They're down to the last 3 tables. So right here we have our chip leader is Young Sik which the picture goes away when you click on it. So appears to be this fella here. In second place with chips is we just talked
Ours.
about him, Johnny Bowers. Way to go,
Yeah,
man! Like this guy's
still there.
unstoppable. Who else we have? Mike Brown, Mark Spitarelli. Way to go, Mark. Matt Salzberg, still doing
Mr.
well.
Salzburg.
Very
Yeah.
healthy stack. Sofia Umerov. I believe she won two of these last year in the same series. Not two Mega Millions, but two Quantums. So definitely a force. Look out there. And some other names I'm not as familiar with. Caro Davtien. I recognize that name. Super regular. I think you played with Prince the other day. Was that you or was
Yeah.
that maybe Frank? So yep.
Yeah, it was me. But we also know most Scott Stewart's a very,
Hmm.
I guess, very, very good pro. He's been around for a very long time. And
Okay.
Ophir, I think Ophir we also know.
I must just not be familiar with the names, but
Yeah,
it's to be
yeah,
expected that these are all familiar and regular names with the structure of this
yeah,
thing. Infinite day
yeah,
ones and two different day twos with infinite bullets to fire. So,
yep.
no surprise to see a lot of good players, a lot of names. So let's take a look at this latest group of bust outs, 28 through 36. Unfortunately, I see here we have Beth Hall busted out in
Oh
32nd.
no.
Good run,
Hmm.
Beth.
Oh,
Um,
Scott Stewart did bust.
yep. Kirk Morrison bust out in 34th. That's a name I was seeing throughout the results, throughout the updates. He was doing really well up until must have been the later levels, just unkind. And, some other names here I'm not as familiar with, but I'm sure we would recognize. You said you recognize who in here?
Uh, in this, I mean, it was weird that Scott Stewart was listed in the top 27, but looks like he busted
Oh,
31st. But
really?
yeah,
There's not. That's got to be a strange. Yeah, that's very
yeah,
strange. Huh,
yeah,
that must be a typo unless there's two Scott Stewarts.
yeah.
I mean, possible. And let's take a quick look here. 37th through 45th, we had Tan Lei, Anthony An. I don't recognize a ton of these names, but like I said, I'm not as good with all of the names. But
Yeah,
here's some folks. So congrats to these people. These guys all got 3,790.
yeah, good run.
All right.
Tough tournament to go run it too deep in.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Pretty big one. And I only managed to min cash myself, but since I did it on a single day one bullet, I'll call that a win. I think so. The min
Nice.
cash was
Hmm.
pathetic. Min cash was 400, but as we know, it's a top 30% of your day two thingy. So
Right.
ended up like, what was that? I think I got like exactly double the buy-in from my flight. So I'll take it. It's a win.
Yeah, it's good ROI, and you didn't put in that many hours. You didn't play any day ones, right? You just went right
What?
to
No,
day
no,
two.
that was the day one. Otherwise I would have lost a
Oh,
lot. Yeah, I played one day, one flight.
oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Oh yeah, well
Yeah,
that's
otherwise
actually
that
pretty good ROI.
400 would have
Yeah,
been terrible. I would have lost 800 or
right,
I would have lost
right,
a
right,
thousand.
right. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. That's good ROI for one bullet. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, it was terrible hourly, as they say, but that's not
Yeah.
what we're here for. We're here for the chance, and I'm gonna be haunted by one of the later hands I played until the classic starts this next week. I've been thinking about it all week. Very upset that I made such a nitty fold, the wrong one. Easy hand in hindsight, but maybe we'll talk about it later, maybe not. I saw you out there too. You're firing away on that day too. Did you? Unfortunately, I think you busted before the money that day. Did you fire on day 2B as well?
I did not fire day two because I couldn't play on Monday for sure. It was going to be either Sunday or nothing.
Gotcha.
I did fire, I think 4 bullets at day one, so that was unfortunate that none of them
Yep.
went through. It ran really, really bad on all of those day ones.
Well,
And then
that's
the
all
day
right.
two, yeah, the day two was interesting because I very peacefully went from the 200K starting stack up to about like 400K, and I was hovering around like 350-ish or so. Nothing really big was happening, so nothing super bad, nothing super good. Just able to just grind my way there, and then yeah, just kind of lost a really silly hand where probably should have just jammed ace king. I think I miscalculated my stack when I thought I had like 40-ish bigs when really I had 30.
Hmm.
So there was like a raise, a call, and another call in the small blind. I had ace king in the big blind. So with 30 bigs, I think that's a jam. But I thought I had 40, so I decided just to 3-bet not all in, and then silly player decided to back raise all in with sixes and one. So lost a humongous pot there. It was probably like 800K pot right there. But yeah,
Yep.
this is how poker goes, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a flip. You lose the flip. That's too bad. And just have to
Yeah.
win the next ones. Yeah, I had an interesting, kind of uneventful day, honestly. Like the most interesting thing the whole day was I pull up to my table. I couldn't find the seat list earlier, so I was kind of surprised. I saw Mr. Bill Klein at my table, and
No.
I actually started my table with the chip lead by about like maybe 50K or so. So we were fairly grouped up. Yeah, Bill was at the table. Luckily for him, he was across the table because I'm hoping it's a sign of endearment, but he needles me pretty hard about how much I talk, how loud I talk. Um, so he was all the way across the table, but it was for the most part a fairly tight table until we finally busted a few people and we got a couple day 2 direct buys, and it reminded me a little bit. They were a different tone of thing, but the impact reminded me of the late buys that I had at the main event at the World Series. It's just these people that were buying in day 2 had such a different approach than the day 1 people who squeaked through in day 1. Now, at the main event, they were probably a little more technically sound and a little more well bankrolled type players than they were playing in that way. But in these guys, definitely better bankroll, but they were playing it like it was a day 1, right? Like they came in and they played the way I expect to see people playing when you sit down in level 1 of these events, right?
Yeah.
Level 1 to 400, which is fine. It's just so hard to adjust when you've been sitting there for 2.5 hours playing against people who are playing kind of straight 40 tight or just a little more not wanting to bust, and all of a sudden these guys sit down with the rebuy infinite mentality or it's the early day 1 mentality,
Yeah.
So that was interesting. It was a real slog for me. I honestly didn't have. I think I had 2, maybe. Okay, I think I had like 3 good, easy hands the whole day, and the rest was just like, don't bust yourself, don't get busted, play it small, just steal the blinds. I actually avoided getting busted. I avoided twice getting busted by Bill. I was down to about 17 big blinds, maybe 16. And he opened from an early position, and he'd done that a couple times. You've played with Bill before, I'm sure. He's fairly taggy. He's got some tricks up his sleeve, but overall he's pretty taggy and solid.
Yeah.
But for usually, actually, I'd played a few other hands with him, and I had 3-bet him before, and I was on the button too. But for some reason, I just didn't get that vibe this time. I just felt like this was like he was pretty strong, and someone flatted behind him, and I looked down at ace queen suited. And usually, I'm like 16, 17 bigs, got a flat, I'll just jam. But I decided to just call. I bricked the flop, and he ended up getting all in with someone else, and he had aces, so that was
Wow.
Woo,
Good read.
that was a good one. And then another one, the read wasn't as good, or actually, the read was all right. It was more so I was trying to be probably too risk averse, honestly, and it actually ended up costing Bill. He busted this hand to an extremely unlucky and terrible bad luck. He opened again from kind of the same position, and this time I'm shorter. I have like 12 or 13 bigs, so I've got 5s on the button, and I'm like, yeah, I should just jam these and just whatever, I'm out. But I didn't, so I just called. So the big blind got to come along, one of these day 2 buys who had been running really well, and the flop is Jack 7-3, I believe, maybe Jack 9-3. Big blind donks out. Bill thinks and calls. I fold. Turns a jack. Big blind bets. Bill raises. Big blind jams. Snap call. Bill's got pocket 3s. Easy double up. Nope. This guy had Jack 3 offsuit.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
It was awful. I felt terrible. Like, if I just played my hand normal, either Bill
folds.
folds. Either he folds and it's all good, or he calls and knocks me out. But oh man, it's kind of my fault he busted. I feel bad, but such brutal. And when he left, it was bad because it's bad if Bill's muttering, right? Because Bill gets up and he's muttering like, it's the only way they get me out of these things like that. I'm like, I mean,
I'm pretty sure it is.
It was awful. It was awful. So that's how my day 2 went pretty much. And then the other one, at least I learned something from the hand I don't like. It was just a multi-way pot where somebody called off their tournament life with a pretty weak hand. It was a spot that was extremely bluff looking, so I don't blame them for calling, but I should have taken more time to think about like, well, it's so obvious this guy's bluffing, he might call with something really bad and I'm still good. So just didn't take the time to think it over. So I learned something. It's all good. But I kind of it's a quantum. I wanted to bring up something here, as I always do, and I think if you've been watching the show for a little while, you might have some idea what I'm about to talk about. And it is the payouts, right? I just want to, I'm not going to harp on it too much, but I just want to give you the numbers. They posted the numbers. The Mini Mega Millions, as you know, has a 1 million guarantee. And as you know, the 1 million guarantee includes all the day 1 payouts and all the day 1 bag, double bag bonuses, etc., etc. So while we were playing day 1A, they announced that we had hit the $1 million guarantee. In my mind, not true, but, officially it is. So this is how it shook out. The total prize pool for this thing after day 1A or day 2A and 2B was 1.384 million. Not bad. If you look down here, the day 1 payouts and the double qualifier payouts totaled over 340,000 though. So if you look, the day 3 payouts just shy of $1 million, and the day 2A and 2B payouts add up to around 80. So really, they just barely made it to $1 million for
Right.
kind of the normal payouts, right? So,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's good or bad. I think this is a little down from what they usually do, to be honest. But just take a look at these numbers and remember that, right? They had, they said they had day one buy-ins, they had 2,000, they had 3,000 entries to their day ones.
Yeah.
Their satellites where you carry forwards, and 400 buy-ins to their day two. Okay. Um, I want to congratulate the Lodge for running the Mega Monster this month and getting 5,462 entries. And this was a
Wow.
$400 tournament with a $1.8 million prize pool.
Wow.
Okay? Like, holy cow. And first
That's
prize
insane.
in this tournament was $300,000. Okay? So this is just, there is some quirks to it. I would have to look them up again. There are some quirks. There may be, there's probably some double bag bonuses. There may be, I think the Lodge does run a tournament where you can combine a bag or two. I don't know if they still do that, but
Yeah.
this is a $400 tournament. $400 tournament. Now look at these comparisons. First prize 300 grand, total prize of 1.8 in a $400 tournament without as much crazy double baggy payout day one halfway through kind of stuff. This tournament 1.38 million. Come on, like twice as many entries over here. What are they doing? What is different? How do they get these people, right? Now Doug and the folks on there have been doing a great job trying to make everything really player friendly, trying to make
Yeah.
everything work really well, trying to get the community excited about the event. But man, these kind of numbers, you should be trying to, in my mind, you should be trying to pull events that pull these kind of numbers, not trying to make more and more complicated ways to rake
Right.
people over, right? And
Yeah, I'm like
go ahead,
we
go ahead.
mentioned this before. Like Texas is such a smaller population than we do. On top of the fact that
Right,
poker
and
is
they're so
actually
spread out.
yeah, and it's actually technically illegal there, right? So it's like these kind of weird subscription type of. So
Yep.
there's probably a whole bunch of people that don't want to play even from that smaller population. So this is actually kind of embarrassing, right? That they would be able to kind of blow out the tournaments that we run from over there. And yes, I think I really hope that all these operators are paying attention to what Doug is doing over there, right? Because despite the odds and despite the things that are going against them, right, in terms of their player pool, they're knocking it out of the park, and it's because Doug is a poker player and pays very close attention to what players want, right? So it
Yeah.
seems like almost everything about how the lodges run, how they do just about everything, is from the perspective of an actual player. And you know what? Like, I think we've been saying that over and over again, right? Like, this is actually how you get growth, right? It's doing stuff like that. So I kind of just hope that people are at least trying to pay attention to what he's doing and trying to copy some of his frameworks.
Yeah, he definitely is into listening to the players. They definitely take feedback. The lodge actually just recently expanded to Austin. I think they bought the old, well, what was the name of it? Uh, maybe John Chan's place. I don't know. They bought one of the other card rooms there, so they've got a location in Austin now. The first thing he was running constant Twitter polls and doing constant trying to gather feedback. And the first couple of weeks they changed things. They would like add a game, they'd remove that game and put in a different one. They would switch the buy-in levels, they'd switch the caps. They tried a bunch of different things according to feedback, all for the sake of trying to make the economy at that room healthy and trying to attract people. And they've been doing, one thing they did is something that no other places seem to ever do, especially if you're like a public company, is they instituted a bad beat jackpot that is not from a player drop. It's 100% paid out of the casino.
Yeah,
Like,
it
what the
just stuff
heck?
like that. It just stuff like that, and also like, it felt like I almost felt like monthly they ate some sort of big overlay. Do you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
It's
that
just
was for
like,
the other ones. Yeah, for their Lodge
yeah,
Championship series, they're gonna have to make a change for that. But they were, yeah, they do, and they didn't change it. The second time they ran it, they didn't reduce it, and they ate another guarantee, or the
right.
overlay
So
ate
like
another overlay.
like this one, I mean, I think Doug is taking a very long-term view of it, right? That he's able to, he wants to basically keep the guarantees up to keep people coming, right? It's just almost like that type of consistency where people see, oh, this place keeps having these huge prize pools, right? They don't even know about the overlays; they just know there's a big prize pool,
Hmm.
right? It seems like it's a safe place to play. It seems like they keep growing, right? So then people are going to be interested in going, and then when you go there, you retain these players because it's an excellent experience when you're playing there. So yeah, I think he's doing all the things right there.
Yeah, yeah, and it's almost like, if you build your marketing budget into the overlay, and then you have to
Yeah,
pay some, you
yeah,
just accept that that was marketing money instead of getting all pissed off and bent
right,
out of shape that you had to pay overlay.
right, yeah. That's a good
because
point.
yeah, because it's not like these casinos and card rooms spend much money actually marketing, right? So
Right.
I don't think I think the closest thing I've seen is the banner that Commerce posts to its fence on the outside of its
Yeah.
property line there, right? Like I mean the
I think once in a blue moon I run into some sort of billboard somewhere that has like the Commerce logo on it. It's pretty rare, but sometimes I
yeah.
run into it here and there. Yeah.
Yep, yep. Seriously, like the like Hustler Casino Live does more billboard advertising
Right.
than these tournaments do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so it's definitely awkward in that way. So I
Yeah.
just kind of want to point that out. Like, man, it's possible. You can do it. Just man, just if you build it, they will come, right?
Yeah, we'll see what the turnout looks like for the classic.
Yeah. Yep. The
I just it just it just feels a lot like they have all the evidence that they need that non-quantum tournaments are gonna get you close to the same prize pools, right? Like all things being equal,
mhm.
relatively average, same number of buy-ins and same number of starting days, right? Same guarantee. You'd probably get it without all of that crazy complexity and overhead. So why
Yeah. Well, I mean,
why do
we
you keep
know
doing it?
why, but like the
Yeah,
other why is like somebody admit
yeah,
that it's not helping. Um,
right.
Yeah, but there's all sorts of things. One thing to point out, now as long as we're talking about the Park West Classic that has started, they're on their second starting flight today. Yesterday, it looks like they had around 50 people or so. The 7 people made it through, and then today they have. Oh, how's it going, the Vegas Nerve? Thanks for hopping in. And yeah, today they had at least 60 people. So once again though the rake in that is so much higher than like the Commerce and the Gardens 1Ks. It's hard to ignore. But yes, I am hoping successful. The one thing I am worried about though is I saw that Q Lee bagged in the very first flight, and as we've been pointing out, that guy's a bagging machine lately, and I'm afraid he's going to suck all the prize pool out before we get to the weekend because he bagged
Yeah.
up on the first flight, and I think what was it in was it the 500 K quantum? He got like 4 bags or 5 bags, and in the mini mega
Did
here,
they
I think he got 4 bags. Like
did they cap this one or no?
I don't know if they capped the number you can get, but the
Uh,
payout for double bagging is huge. Everything they did with this is just screaming that they're terrified of overlaying and they really don't have faith in it because the double bag bonus is 8,000, which is
8,000?
yeah, which is like just a couple $100 short of like what would be fair because it's $1,050 into the prize pool out of your entry fee, right? Or is it a little less? When 1 and 8 get through, so a fair amount would be like 8,400. So you get pretty much the full amount taken out. So it's definitely worth it if you are good at bagging to play all week long and just keep bagging. Like
That is,
if I was just trying to make money and I bagged early, that's 100% what I would do.
yeah,
And that's
that
going
is
to take,
bananas.
it has the potential to take a lot out. I mean, it's 1 and 8 bag. It's not like the mega where like 5% bag. It's not even 10. It's 1 and 8. It's 12.5%.
Right,
So we'll see.
right.
We'll see. We'll monitor that. I hope that doesn't hurt the prize pool too much. If it does, I'll be annoyed. But at least you still don't get those day 2 buy-ins. We'll see.
Yeah.
I hope they capped it at 4. Just because like guys like Q, I mean, if he with the entire week to go, he could do it.
Yeah.
With only one flight a day, it makes it harder. But
Yeah.
yeah. So and then the other thing that they've been doing all series is for all of their multi days, they've been making the top 10 people get entry into this event instead of $1,000 of their prize, right? So you know, Vegas Nerve there. He's Mr. Gallagher is going to be hopping in the classic tomorrow. So if you want to get into the excellent Vegas Nerve vlog, have a chance at that, go play the Park West Classic tomorrow. Try and get a hand with him. And if you are going to do that, go watch his channel so that you can do a little scouting report, get a little research done. All right. So we will come back to the Park West Classic and some of the stuff at the bike near the end when we talk about what's coming up this week. Why don't we jump over to this article that came out? I think it was it Lappin that put it out, or was it Kearney that put this
I
article
believe it
out?
was Lappin, and I think maybe Kearney might have contributed, but I think it was
Okay.
mostly Lappin that
Yeah.
authored it. Yeah.
So he's talking about he's putting the call out to curb late registration, right? So obviously everyone who plays tournaments is familiar with late reg. When you want to play a tournament, you can usually everyone asks how many levels is reg open till what time, right? Because when the tournament starts at 11 a.m., you do not have to get there at 11 a.m. And
Right.
it didn't always used to be that way, right? Didn't always used to be that way. Savage said the year he took over the World Series, they started the tournaments on time, and you had to be there in time. And he warned everyone, and people were starting to be late because it used to be they said you had to be there in time, but they would start the events late, so that late reg, that was like the unofficial late reg. Everyone who shows
Yeah.
up on time gets punished by having to sit around doing nothing, and all the people who show up late, they just don't start the tournament on time. So, Derek, I think, like you said, we've talked about this before, but why would anyone want to reg late, right? Aside from I slept in, is there any reason you would want to buy in late strategically?
Yeah, and I'd recommend people read that article. And we'll, pop it in the chat. Maybe how you can pop it in the chat for people. But this does a really good job of articulating what like the equity value is that you get out of registering late, and in particular, down to like 10 to like 10ish big blinds, 10 to 15 big blinds. That's really where you get the most equity. And really, what's happening is that so much of the field has been eliminated already. And then you're so much closer to the money because before, like Ty mentioned, it was like be there on time, and then it was like, oh, we'll just give you 1 to 2 hours of late reg. They did it for good reasons, do a 2 p.m. tournament, try to get the 9 to 5ers a little bit of time to start the tournament at 4, end registration at 4 so people can make it. So that's kind of where it started, and they started extending, right? The late reg like later and later and later. It's like ridiculous, right? To the point where you can start with a tiny stack, but that tiny stack is so much equity compared to like everything else, right? So I think Lappin was making the point that they try to do things like the worst stack you can actually have is around 25 to 30 BBs because you can't re-steal, right? It's like too big to re-steal. So then you end up having to try to do something like kind of 3-bet not all in, and somebody 4-bets, you got to fold, give up all these chips. It's super awkward. So basically they punish the late reggers by making it so they would start around 25 or 30 bigs, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then if you go further than that, that's where all of your equity kind of comes because so many people are out. You have a re-steal stack that people can, they kind of really have to like fold to. So that's basically the point that he was making is that it's like really just too much of an advantage right now for short stackers that come in and just like max late reg.
Right. And this is a real big problem online when the online late reg and the stacks that you have online and the levels being so short, like literally a couple minutes. It's a massive problem there. I remember one of the bot allegations was like, look, these guys, like they'll put in 10 bots on the same table at the very, very, very last second in a big tournament, and then they will all tank the maximum amount, and they will just fold their way into a mid cash, which is just free money.
Right.
And
Right.
it's a huge problem. And in the article here, he mentions that this year at the World Series, one of the things that came up was the unfairness of how late reg was working in a lot of these events. A lot of these bigger events, late reg line was huge. They could have, I don't know, like say you had like 70, 80 people waiting to get in at the very last second of late reg. You still have to wait for seats. So now reg is over, and we get to the situation you talked about, even easier. I'm sitting in line waiting for my seat. Reg ended a while ago. Maybe it's been 2 levels since then. I finally get my seat, and now the story he tells is that this guy, there was a guy who was in one of these events, and he only had to play 23 hands. He only had to pay the blinds once, and he just folded the rest of the time. Now, he got lucky and his tables broke, just so. But, it's in this situation, it sounds like he would have only had to pay 2 orbits worth of blinds and fold his way into a min cash, which is absurd. You should have to play some poker to cash a poker tournament.
And think about that as a professional poker player who doesn't have a job, right? Is that like, you can maybe just sleep in, grind cash games for a couple hours, be like, all right, it's time for me to go
And
play
pick up my
one
min
and a
cash.
half 1.5 hours of poker to grab a min cash.
Yeah, not even play though. You're just at that point. You're just a
Right.
advantage slot player. You're
Right.
like, oh, the
Right.
machine's ready to pay out. I'm gonna go over, sit in the chair, and get my payout, and then I'm gonna go back. Like that's
Yeah,
not right.
and maybe 1 out of 6, 1 out of 7 times I'm gonna spin it up and then like final table off of that thing, right? So like that's gonna happen too. It's just like so much of an advantage, and I think at the end of the article he's at this point like saying, hey, is it time for the TDA to step in and do something about this? Right? He's like typically TDA doesn't get involved in things like structures, things that really is something that's within the domain of operators.
Right.
But like at this point it's starting to get a little ridiculous.
Yeah, I definitely think it should be thought about to at least put out some guidelines. Right? They have a section at the back with I think some suggestions, and they can say like, look, you might be running some wacky, funky tournament, but we really recommend you don't let anybody late reg at a level where they will start with fewer than X blinds or something, right? Or where you really take the time to think that you don't let anyone register at a time where it's, within X% of people of getting to the money, in which case you have to do some math and know how your structure works, but, they can at least put some recommendations out. So that might be definitely a good thing.
And even with like all the analysis I did at the World Series, and maybe I came to the conclusion like this looks like it's a little bit more economy related, right? This is why we were down on almost everything until like the end of the series and the main event. Um, but what if it is that a lot of amateur players are getting a little bit turned off by tournament poker, right? Like I don't want like 50 million hours of late reg. Maybe I don't completely understand why it's better for pros, but it just seems like everyone's saying it's better, and I'm getting ripped off
Right.
somehow,
Yeah.
right? On top of that, solvers, right? It just like so many things now. Um, and now at this point, I think the TDA definitely need to step in when it's potentially hurting the growth of the game.
Yeah. And in my mind, it kind of is like these things these things are very visible strategic things that people can do, and like you said, people kind of feel left out, like, ugh, I don't have time to study, I don't know how solvers work, I don't know why late reg is good for me, right? But all the cool kids are doing it and they're laughing at me and they're calling me a
Yeah,
fish, right? So it's
yeah,
like this kind of is in the same vein as the way quantums are for me, right? Like they're so complicated, right? And my problem is that the casual players don't understand what a good thing or bad thing to do in the quantum is, right? They just want to sit and play. They just want to sit and play poker. And
yeah,
in a way, the old way of you have to show up on time, everyone starts from the beginning. That's why the idea of freeze outs is so popular, right?
yeah.
I don't think I think there's a very small minority of rec players who would say that they wouldn't prefer to play more freeze outs because and the ones who would, they're the ones that can travel and go somewhere to play an event somewhere else, right? But freeze
Yeah.
outs, everything feels so fair, right? And with all these different variables and knobs and things, like different times to register, different days to register, different everything, they just feel like it's getting more and more stacked against them. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
fair. So I think we really need to it needs to be fair, but it also needs to seem fair, right? And that's how you
Yeah.
get, the marketing is it has to seem fair. And there's no way, honestly, I really would love to see on the schedules around LA. We have so many series. I would really love to see one good freeze out on every schedule. I mean, if you're going to run 2 months
Right.
worth of tournaments, can't you just fit one freeze out in? I mean, you'll be able
Yeah.
to schedule another event later in the afternoon because they can't re-enter there. So let's just see
Right.
one good freeze out in all these things.
Yeah. And or even just something with like super limited, like, late reg, right? Or maybe cap number rebuys, whatever it is. But like, I think one other important point of this is like obviously bigger prize pools are better, right? Bigger prize pools are what attract people to come out. People are coming from all over when they hear $1 million, $2 million guarantee, right? Oh, now I'm gonna actually fly out of state to go play something like that. Um, But we have to again just keep making sure that we're segmenting our players very carefully because again we keep saying that the largest portion of the player pools are going to be working regulars, right? So this means that people that are a little bit more clueless and don't play that frequently I mean, like there's a lot of those people, but at any given time they're going to be a smaller percentage of that prize pool, and they're not going to be the ones that realize they're getting ripped off, right, by all these crazy things as the working rigs are. So when the working rigs start thinking that, they're the ones that are going to stop showing up. So then the biggest portion of your player pool is going to stop showing up, right? Whereas that big attractive number might be attracting a smaller percentage of people. So this is definitely that type of thing that might lead to what we saw at the World Series this year. So we'll have to keep an eye on it.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that is, of course, the dance when you try to get those big prize pools. If you remember from, let me bring it up back up, the lodges announcements. I mean, they had a stat here for the most bullets by one player, and somebody bought in
Yeah,
29 times. Now,
that's insane.
I mean, it could have been Doug, but and they
Yeah,
they had three players who bought in over 20 times. Now, on the one hand, right, that's amazing for their prize pool, but on the other hand, that's extreme, and that's 60 entries out of 5,400. So those really extreme mega number of buy-ins, like, is it like, okay, those people wouldn't be able to do it, but it was 3.3 average entries per player. Now, that being said, they had many, many, many flights, so you could still, conceivably have one entry per flight kind
yeah.
of rules and still be okay. But
Three point 3.3 per player is pretty high because I imagine that a significant percentage were one bloaters, right? So to have the average 3.3 is
yeah,
sounds very high.
well, I mean, they had the 29 enters and the 20s and the, but that's the thing is
Sure.
their regulars and the people in their community and the people who traveled were very excited and are very excited for poker in the community, right? So
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing you kind of have to generate,
Right.
and you have to structure your tournament in a way that's possible for those players, right? That's one of the things we're always kind of grousing at the structures we see around here for. It's like, look, you leave reg open forever, but nobody's gonna bust, right?
Yeah.
So like I can't buy into this one day 10 times because for the first 3 hours I have 300 big blinds. I can't bust. Like I
Right.
want to bust. I want to build chips or bust, but I can't. I have too many chips. Like why are we starting at 1-1? Why are we starting at 1-2 no ante?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like
Yep.
leave reg open, sure, but and don't let us reg with 10 big blinds, but let us play during this sweet spot where when you get
Yeah.
into a big pot, it's a big pot for your tournament and not like like I lost 5K out of my 50K.
Yeah. I think unfortunately most operators feel a lot of times they're like 2 or 3 years behind the times, right? They're still kind of riding on the stuff that they knew from 2 or 3 years ago and not sort of listening to stuff like this, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, all we can do is keep kind of complaining, and well, that's not even complaining. These are the way we feel like this is how it would work on us. I'm
Yeah.
saying
Right.
this suggestion comes from how would you get more money from me, and that's how I'm saying it.
Yeah.
um, all right. So, oh wait, I'm trying to make this a little more visible. So that's kind of the late reg thing. Now, tell me if I'm wrong here. The one thing, the way I kind of think of late reg value is with my caveman view of ICM here. The later on in a tournament you go with more people knocked out, your chips should be worth more, right? Now, we
Yes.
all know more chips isn't worth the same more, but
Yep. That's right.
if I buy into a $500 tournament and I get 50,000 in chips, at the
Hmm.
beginning of the tournament, that's worth $500.
Yep.
At the very end of max late reg, after 35% of the people have been bought out, I'm thinking that stack's
Yep.
probably worth like 600, something like that.
Right.
So
Right.
that,
And
in
on,
my
and
mind, is the money they're stealing from everyone else.
on top of that, the bigger stacks, typically, the bigger your stack is, like the average chip, like the average worth of each chip is less, right? So
Exactly.
that means short stacks, actually your chips are worth a lot. So buying in max late reg with a short stack super close to the money is like max EV.
Right. Now, you are not maximum to win the tournament or win a lot of
No,
chips. Now, that's the
no,
misnomer. People think like, hey, max late reg, they're likely to win. It's like, no, they're not likely to win. They're likely to make more money than you over the aggregate, but not
right,
more than you who have a lot of chips right now, more than
right,
you who started the tournament at the beginning. And that's
yeah.
that's kind of how it works, right? So,
Yeah. It's
um,
basically that and also an hourly rate, right? So
yeah,
again, it's because they can just show up, play for an hour and a half, 2 hours, do some silly stuff, and grab some money and go, right? And then just go back to whatever they're doing, playing cash games, playing daily fantasy sports, whatever it was. It just kind of sucks, right? Because it just feels like it's so against the spirit of poker tournaments and definitely hurts amateurs who want to be there on hand number one and just kind of play and grind it out. And they're all just getting punished, right, by these late reggers.
yeah, because like that extra EV they get, they didn't earn that. They just got it by entering late.
Yep.
That
Yep.
stack's
Exactly.
worth 600 instead of 500. They kind of automatically get 100 just for entering, and it's like you didn't earn that. You didn't play it. I got here on
That's
time
right.
when my stack was worth 500. I knocked someone out. Now my stack's worth 650. I earned that. I want to. I got it all in. I won. You just
Yep.
registered late. You just got here late. Like that's not fair.
Right.
All right. Let's not get fired up about this. Let's talk about something more fun. I have right here in front of me the very first set of LA Poker Roundup Player of the Year results. And I got to tell you, I'm not real surprised by some of the names I see in here. It's only been, I think this was maybe 10 events so far. As a reminder, the events that count for this series are all the trophy events that are Hold'em events and that are not quantums, okay? So everything that's in here so far are all of the events that meet that criteria up until the last one that is in Hendon is this one, I believe, the legendary deep stack that was right before the Mini Mega Millions, this 8-3 one, this one that was the third of the month. So that's where we're at. And the early leader in our Player of the Year is Kelvin Chan, who won that particular event.
Yep.
So Kelvin here, you'll recognize the cowboy hat if you've been playing around. He always wears it. He spiked that one, and his series so far, he's actually only got 2 cashes so far, but it is a final table, 8th place, and a win. So that kind of is where all those points come from in our series.
Yeah.
And not
Yeah.
only is it in 8th place, it was in 8th place in the Big Four. So this was the massive one. This is the biggest tournament.
Oh yeah.
Yep, this is the biggest tournament that counts for our series so far. This is the big multi-day. This Big Four had 2,000 entries in it with the biggest prize pool. So that is why he's on top of the standings. That makes sense. He has a win, and he
Yeah.
has a final table of the biggest event we have so far.
Yeah, I like these multipliers on almost like level of difficulty, with higher
Yeah.
buy-ins, higher, whatever,
Yep.
like population. Yeah.
And as a reminder, there are bonuses for the higher buy-ins. There are bonuses for the bigger fields. And the way it works is that the deeper you get percentage-wise is a little more in line with the points you'll get. So in a lot of point systems, like you'll get heavily rewarded for getting like ninth place final table, which is good, but you'll still get heavily rewarded even if it was like a 60-person field. Like final table, you get a bump. In this system, it's a little more like, oh, you got ninth place. That's really good. That's top 0.5% of the field. But if you play in a 5,000 person field and you get into the top 0.5%, your points could be similar to that ninth place for the other one, right? So and it's not exactly how it works, but it's a little bit like that. And then there is a bonus for winning. So other names up here, Joel Hernandez, he was the top chop winner of that event, of that big event. So you can see in that 400 in our big four, the number one player in that got 772 points. So Calvin probably got, I don't know, between 400 and 500. Or actually, no, he got probably around 500 for winning the other, and then probably another 350 or 4 for the second. Yeah, so that's kind of how that works. And then Ryan Hemmel, he is right on Joel's heels, which I believe Joel doesn't have any other caches in the Legends this year, so that is his sole Player of the Year point source. But Ryan won the first 150K guarantee of the series, and he's had several other good caches. Now, people might say, well, if you have to win to get up here, but look, Mr. Q Lee, who we just mentioned, I'm afraid of stealing all of the prize pool from the Park West Classic before I even get into it. He's in fourth place right now, and he has not won a single event. Now, that being said, he's as we've been saying his name a lot, he's having quite a series. So he's not been a slouch, but you don't have to you don't have to win in order to be on the top. So let's take a look real quick. He's got he's got a third, he's got a second, he's got a fourth. Oh, this is Heroes though. We didn't count that one. That one didn't count because this is Hold'em only. But then he won the Bounty XL, so he did win one. Sorry, he won. Oh, but you know what? I'm not sure if that one counted for us. So he's just crushing even ones that don't count necessarily. The XL Bounty, I don't remember if that one counted, if it was a trophy event or not. And then here in the 400, he got 8th in that same big. Oh, this is Super Bounty. That one definitely didn't count. And then the Legendary Deep Stack, he got 33rd. So he's just, he's piling up the results in this thing. He is.
I mean, that's nice. It was, like the system basically rewards like the consistency of grinders, and then also if you can just ship a couple of tournaments and put up some decent results to surround it, right? You're gonna end up showing up, and that feels like the correct like method, right? For POY.
Yep. So I'm really hoping that it continues to kind of show that out and bear that out over the year. We'll see. With such a long running tally we're doing, it'd be really interesting to see if some people just really separate from the pack, or if it really does turn into a couple big wings here. Lots of other names here that I believe. Let's see here. Mark sounds like a name I should remember.
I think Zilong Zhang is the guy that went deep in the WSOP.
Oh yeah. Okay. So that's
Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron. Yep, Aaron. So Aaron. Yep. He's been playing a ton, put in a lot of volume. So Aaron's been killing it. We have Lena Nemi up here in the top 20. So way to go. We've mentioned her quite a bit in the last couple months. Roscoe Hayden, I believe, is the kid with the frizzy hair that I've played with several times in the last couple months. So another big time reg. We have Caro. We just mentioned he's still alive in the Mini Mega Millions down here in 24th. We've got Leah Nemi in 32nd. So these two, look at this. Wow. This family just grinding it out. 32nd and 17th. They're doing great here. Felix Wright sounds like a name I should know. David Deck, 33rd. Way to go, David. Frank Lynn, right here. He's probably in the chat. 37th currently, Frank.
Frank, it's very disappointing. I expect you to be in the top 5.
Well, the day ones and the satellites aren't counting as much.
No, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yep. If we had if we had a Gardens Player of the Year,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Jeremy would win. If we had like a satellite Player of the Year, like Frank would probably kill it. Yeah. We've got Eugene Tito down here in 47th. Britton Purvis
Nice.
48. It's gonna take a minute. I'm just trying to get to our names. It's gonna be a while. Hold on, let me go. I might have to do the search function. So yeah, check it out. We have a link on the website. You can check out this sheet from there. It is you'll be able to view it, and I believe I was in 200 something if I recall. Let me see if I can quick find myself. I'll do a search. So I believe I'm in the 200s or maybe the 3 somethings, and I believe it's off of just the one cash in the big one. Oh, I need to delete that. Don't want to leave those in there. So sometimes the unknowns start piling up. Oh, there's Sophia. She's alive right now. She probably got that from a 150K. I don't think she plays all the others. So I am in 209. So that's me. And then are there a lot of Quans that play? Derek down in 455. So I
Jeez.
believe our only ones are from the big 400 caches though, right? I think that's all we got. Now
Um, I don't even remember what I cashed into, to be honest
I
with
think
you.
it was the big 400 or the big 4. Currently
I
we're
don't, I
tracking
don't,
562 unique players.
yeah, I don't even remember cashing anything this series, to be honest with you. I also haven't been playing that much, but I got to get on my horse here and move up this leaderboard.
Yeah, well, I mean, you played the 150s and you played the multi-days. I'm pretty sure it was the big 4, though. I think we were both there in the day 2 of big 4, which
Uh,
cashed us. Yep.
yeah.
So still lots and lots of time. We are waiting to get the next set of events in there. It won't be actually this one coming up that we're talking about, the Park West Classic. That will be the biggest event on the Player of the Year for quite some time, I bet, because the September series that will be announced at some point somewhere, which we're about to talk about next, I doubt they'll have anything bigger than the 1 million guarantee 1K. So that Park West Classic will probably be the big boy. Now, one other thing I just want to quick point out about our Player of the Year is I am also tracking total amount of cash won in our tracked events, and you'll see the biggest cash winners are not necessarily the winners
Right.
of the thing, which some people may or may not like, but I kind of like that because that just means that when you win the biggest tournament, you bank the biggest one all year and cash nothing else, you're not the Player of the Year necessarily, right?
I think that feels fair. It
Yeah.
absolutely feels fair.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you look, once you get down here out of the top 50 or so, out of the top 40 even, like there really aren't a lot of big cashers, like, which is pretty consistent. No one outside the top 40 has made 5 figures of cash right now. So,
Yeah.
seems about right. Okay. So, check it out. Get your name on the board. Bragging rights, check your friends. Oh, so yeah. So I see Julie in there. The ninth. Unfortunately, your ninth isn't going to count in our Player of the Year. Just like my third will not count because those evening tournaments don't count. They were not listed as trophy events on the bike schedule. So unfortunately, that you and I are missing out on those points. Or I'd be doing a lot better on this list, and so would you. So unfortunately, those don't count. And I can't go around changing the rules just because I got third in one of the events.
Yeah.
Not we're not like that here. It's not how it works. Okay. So let's jump on to some juicy gossip, man. Let's jump on to some stuff we've been seeing and hearing around the bend, right? So one thing in our perusal of Twitter and our DMs and our just checking everywhere, right, and hearing is I don't think they still have not hired a tournament director at Commerce. They're still going with just the
I have not.
temporary, Jonathan being the temporary tournament director. They haven't hired anyone. And look at this. Somebody out there has started a petition to reinstate DJ as tournament director. Now, I read this. You guys can read this. We'll put this link out we'll probably put this out on Twitter, after the show or tomorrow or something. Someone started this. It's who's it by? Monopoly Go. I'm not sure if their name's associated with this. I haven't logged in, but they kind of lay out what happened with DJ leaving at that point. It looks like he was making a certain amount with overtime, and then he took a huge pay cut. He was forced to take a huge pay cut, and then that's when he left, and he has not been able to come to an agreement. But this petition says, hey, we miss DJ. We think that the tournaments are suffering because he's been out, and trying to get a petition going to get some support to bring him back. So someone out there, big DJ supporter, getting this going. We will put the link out there, and I'm all for it. I like that people are supporting him. I applaud this guy, and personally, I would love it if DJ came back.
Yeah. Yeah, and kudos to that person for putting this thing out there. Obviously, you must feel some positivity towards DJ and all his contributions, right, to the LA poker community, to the Commerce Casino over the years. I actually even haven't read that whole petition yet, but obviously me and Ty don't aren't like basically like backing or supporting everything that's being said in there, but we definitely back DJ for sure. Like we love DJ,
Yeah.
and definitely hope he gets a shot, whether at Commerce or somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. And I know he's been out working hard and spreading around. I'm sure he'll land somewhere good. And Commerce would do great to bring him back. But, um,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, he
just to
definitely runs.
support. Oh, go
Yeah,
go.
he runs a smooth ship, and I really love the way that he would just like experiment, like with like different types of formats here and there, right? During the tournament series, and sometimes some of those things are going to stick and kind of like move up, right? I even still remember very specifically that reduced small blind tournament where I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, man, this tournament's playing so freaking well structured. I just would not have expected this, but I never, that would never have been uncovered unless somebody experimented with stuff like that. So really, really appreciate all of the stuff that DJ was doing.
Yeah, no, and the best part was that, just when we had DJ, just like Kevin, he actually listens to player feedback, right? And he really sought
Yeah,
it out a lot. He was constantly asking for player feedback, just the way that we're talking about Doug does, right? And
yeah.
that was super awesome to see. And he always tried to pack his schedules up, and so like that's all great. And the other thing is that without DJ there, this is just without any tournament director, but DJ would fill all these roles. Without a tournament director there, they really just don't have anyone that feels like they care about tournaments, right? That actually wants. Now, the World Series circuit comes in, which DJ was a big person pushing it. Back when we were hinting that it was coming, he was the one feeding us that information a little ahead of time and saying, we've been working this deal. I've been pushing this. I've been trying to get this to happen. He's the one that really pushes on management when he was there to say like, look, you got to go back to the ballroom. Look, we got to get the circuit in. We got to
Yeah,
get some excitement. Look, we got to do this. We got to do that. You can't keep, the
yeah,
players hate this. We can't do it. And he's the one that made sure we're having a good experience, right? So
yeah.
without
He did.
someone
He
like
did. He
that
did
there,
fight for us.
yeah,
Yeah, he fought for us a lot.
yeah, without someone like that there, like imagine if he wasn't there and we're just still in the tent and we never got the circuit there. Like Commerce would be just who would be playing
Right.
there? It'd be going down in the dumps, right? But instead we got this awesome circuit with GG coming in and sponsoring and doing all the coverage.
Yeah.
It was amazing, right?
Yeah.
So another kind of example of that, right, is that we kind of had been speculating that until they got a tournament director, they weren't going to run any series other than the circuit in November, right? I've been kind of wondering about that basically the entire time since that last circuit because time was ticking and it's almost September and they usually run the Hold'em series then, right? They usually run the Hold'em series in September. I think we each have. Wait. Oh no. Yeah. Yeah. I've got that's this from the Hold'em series. That's right. Yours is from the LA Poker Open, right? Um, and we hadn't heard anything. And I went and chatted with some of the tournament, not what are some of the floor guys. When I was playing the dailies at Commerce, and I chatted with some of the floor guys and some of the staff, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't think we're doing anything. We're not having a tournament in September." And then the rumors were bubbling around at the bike and at the gardens and everyone. They're like, "Yeah, Commerce says they're not doing one. I think that the Gardens was going to run a series in September, and it looked that way. All of the murmurs we're hearing out on the floors, right, was that Gardens was going to run a series all of
Yeah.
September long, and then
Yep.
all of a sudden we heard something else. We heard all of a sudden that for some reason. That's not true. They're going to run something, and that now they have to negotiate. So it's like, what the heck? Well, guys, September's only a couple weeks away. It'd really be nice to know what's happening. So we have questions. The community has questions. What's going to happen? What happened? And what are you going to run without a tournament director? Are you just going to grab last year's schedule and chop a week off? Like, who's making these decisions? Does Jonathan have time to do this? Is he the one doing it? Hungsky's he's adamant he's not going to be the tournament director, so he's not doing it unless I don't think he was joking. He's not taking that pay cut to be the tournament director.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like obviously we don't know really what kind of what's going on behind the scenes, right? And we're just kind of hearing things through the grapevine as we do through the community. But it does feel like kind of a shitty spot. We definitely want to see Kevin run a full series at the Gardens just to
Absolutely.
see what it's really important. Not only like is Kevin awesome and runs an amazing like operations over there at Gardens. But it's just like everything that he does is actually very similar to Doug and how player friendly it is and how like worker, schedule friendly it is, and just like even all the different kind of like buy-ins and everything all just seem like very aligned with what players want. So we only have like these little snippets of he gets to squeeze in a week here and then run a tournament series here, and then we get some numbers from it. But seeing the numbers from a full series would really tell us a lot and probably actually be really good data points for like the other operators in town. So yeah, this really sucks, especially if Commerce decided this like super last minute and sprung this on the schedule. It just it sucks.
Yeah, and the later it takes for them to announce and say anything, the more it'll seem like that was the case because, well, otherwise, why haven't you said anything, right? And
Right.
I've been speculating, and I drove Bill Klein crazy with this. I think he humored me and pulled his ear plug off a little bit like this while I was doing it, but then after he's like, yeah, he's sure got an opinion, doesn't he? But look, Commerce and I feel like the Commerce and Gardens, their series, from what I've seen, right? So the short series that the Gardens has done, they do kind of those lower buy-in events the whole time, and then they'll have like one capstone event, right? Those 1Ks. And I feel like, and then the bike feels like it's all of their series are just quantums. It's just all quantums all the time, built around the quantums. Now we have the Park West Classic, great, but like really, bike is like you do Big Poker October or the March thing. It's like we're gonna have three quantums. We're gonna have one weekend of something else. That's our series. Commerce and the Gardens, I feel like they run more of a World Series type of schedule, a mix of things, different levels, a lot more of that lower to mid buy-in level for, which I feel like is a real sweet spot here in LA, somewhere between that $250 and $600 price point. I feel like is where you're going to get a ton of volume as far as players and feet in the door. I feel like that means that to me, a Commerce and a Garden series would actually be competing with each other a lot on price points, on structures, on things being
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah.
However, why don't I what I would really like to see is one of these series starting over top of the bike Mega Millions, for instance. Like, why not start your series here? I'm looking at the schedule, and on the weekend of the 24th, so the weekend of the 24th, in 2 weeks, right? That weekend at the bike is nothing but Mega Millions day ones and Mega Millions satellites, right? That's going to be the most boring, worst weekend for me in like a couple months span because like the hell do I care about those, right? Like I might fire one just because there's nothing else going on, but like if there was any other event going on,
Mm.
I'd like to do it.
Yeah.
Now, Hollywood Park is going to run their monthly special, their 50K, but like, look, the day two buy-in for the Mega Millions is almost 4 grand, right? It's like
Yeah.
3,800. That price point is an entirely different, that's like a WPT price point. That's an entirely different customer than the people who want to play 400s, 300s,
Right.
500, that the person who wants to play the 300K guarantee $400 buy-in multi-day, that's not the person who's going to buy in for 3,800. Now there's a couple because we're all degens. Bill Klein would play either,
Yeah.
which is why we love him. But that's not the same customer. So why not just overlap with some of these smaller buy-in multi-days that are normal and let the people who want to buy in for 3,800 or the people who already got in or whatever, why not do it, Why not try that? And
Yep.
then we can do that because we've seen in the past, was it 1 year or 2 years ago, DJ, remember, he had to completely he had to like re-release his schedule because he was supposed to have it wasn't Labor Day, what was it? It was he was supposed to have some weekend to start his tournament
I remember
series,
that. Yeah.
remember?
Yeah.
And then the
I
bike
remember that.
said,
Yeah.
"You know what? We forgot that
Person
something was going
went.
on. We're going to add a week to our series so that we can put
Right.
maybe it was Labor Day a couple years ago. It was this one because initially the Legends ended a week earlier, and then Labor Day was the next week. So he was like, "Perfect. I'm going to do my 250 or whatever. We're going to have 4 day ones. It's going to be great." And then the bike just said, "You know what? I know we've already started our series, but we're going to add a week and we're going to push the end here so that we can have Labor Day for our Mega Millions." It's like, what?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
guys, you guys supposedly talk to each other so that you can, instead of competing, you're kind of splitting the market. If you're going to compete, look, if I had been DJ then, I'm like, okay, you're going to compete. It's game on. Let's go. I'm going to
Yeah.
undercut every single one of your big guarantees that you try and run for 3 weeks. And if I can do it, good luck, have fun.
Right.
Cause how many
Right.
4K buy-ins are you going to get? Because
Right.
that's just like, that's not right. So if that's the case, then why not fight back, right? Because they clearly don't
Yeah.
care. I mean, if they don't care about what you're doing, then you might as well compete back. And the other thing
Yeah.
is, there's such different price points. That's my point,
Right.
and it just lets you hammer home how you know. I don't know. That's what I think.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I think it's an okay point that if there are different price points, maybe some amount of overlap doesn't cannibalize that much, but definitely operators competing too much with each other is definitely going to have bad cannibalization, and that could be harmful because then that leads to smaller prize pools, which leads to smaller guarantees, which leads to less people coming out. So it could be like a race to the bottom if you start doing that. On the other hand, though, competition is good, right? So I don't know, tough
Yeah,
spot.
yeah. And the other thing is, I mean, it'd be just such an easy sell for most people, I think, if it was like, well, there's a $300 200K guarantee that ends this weekend, and if I want to play the Mega Millions, I can still play those flights during the week. Okay, I'll go play that.
Right.
Also, the rake
Right.
on the Mega Millions day ones are like 35%, and the rake on this is 20%. Oh, this seems like a no-brainer, right? Because the rake, as we mentioned before, it's slipping up everywhere. You know, I keep, like I said, I have to adjust my app. All the buy-in points at the bike that I'm used to, I have to adjust up, and it's not going into the prize pool, man.
Yep.
So I don't know. So we're still waiting for the September schedules to come out of, Commerce Gardens, wherever they're going to come out of. We are waiting with bated breath. We can't, I'm excited. I really hope that, I really hope the Gardens try something big. Maybe it'll be harder now that it's a shorter series, but we'll see. And then, and yeah, so we'll just see how that develops. But that is the latest word from the street, is that they were going to do one. Gardens was going to take the whole month. And then all of a sudden Commerce is going to do it, and all of a sudden they have to reschedule. Oh, and the last little tidbit we heard was that one of the big problems for the casinos around here and for the tournament scenes is just staffing. You'll notice a
Yeah.
lot of the same dealers at all the same places. You'll notice
Yep.
some of the
That's
floor
right.
going from place to place. So that is one of the bigger problems, honestly, than the players for running series overlapping, is the staffing. They share a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
the same people. So
That's true. Yeah.
and I heard that the bike was putting their foot down, like, hey, if Commerce does a series at the end of this month, you cannot leave and go work that series, period.
Yeah. I mean,
So
yeah,
it's
you
like,
need you need those people. So yeah, it's
yeah,
tough.
so I mean, that's what I mean. Like, if I don't know, if I was in a spot to fight and someone was stepping on my toes when we agreed to play nice, I would just be fighting back. But they stepped on DJ's toes and he's gone, so maybe
Yeah.
that's not the deal.
Right.
So, all right. All right. So that's all the latest gossip, man. So, um, I cannot wait to try, I hope I can get it early before it gets messed. If I get to it late, I might not want to have it because, who wants 100 hands in there? But like, I've heard the
Well, I
shrimp
mean,
tower isn't just shrimp.
there's tongs, but
Tongs,
sure.
yeah, that's
Yes.
great. We need to do that. But I hear there's more seafood around too. I think I see it in the picture as the mussels, and
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of
there's
stuff in
all
there.
sorts of stuff.
It
And there's a
was
lobster on the
so long
top.
ago. I remember there definitely was like crab legs in there too at some point.
Crab.
So
Oh yeah, I kind of think I see some on the side here. Yeah. So,
yeah,
oh man. On the one hand, I think that's awesome. As I joked before, I don't know if that's worth the extra $50 a rake that I think they're taking out of here,
yeah.
but
I'm definitely not gonna eat $50 worth of shrimp.
yeah.
But I mean, back then it was like a full-on buffet where like the shrimp tower was up front, and then after
Okay.
that, there was like all like meat and other stuff that you can get, potatoes and rice and desserts. It was unbelievable spread.
Uh,
So yeah, interested to see what the spread looks like. But just having the shrimp tower back seems pretty exciting to
All
me.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So we got to make sure we make day 2 and get to that because that's not happening until
Yeah.
day 2. And speaking, into the Park West Classic, this is the return list as of the first day 1. As we already mentioned, Q Lee's in there. George Pineda, he has the bagged the lead for this flight. Now, like I said, there's only 7 people that got through, which means that's somewhere in the neighborhood of 56 people, I think, was in that flight. So, a bit of a slow start, but it'll move up.
Yeah.
We have Roscoe Hayden. We just read his name off of our list, so he's going to be cashing this thing, getting some more points in that Player of the Year race. So good for him. Hopefully, we'll be able to add our names onto this list here. So,
Yeah.
all right. And with that, I think it's time to do the roundup. Let's go. All right, as we've been talking, and if you couldn't tell, this weekend is all about the Park West Classic. So all week long, all they have going on are Park West Classic Day 1s and satellites. And during the weekdays, up through Thursday, they also have a 4 p.m. one-day tournament. The number of chips you get varies, but it's always a $250 buy-in. No guarantees on those. Those do not count for our player of the year. So sorry. Please try and win it. But if you happen to final table that one, Julie, you're not going to get points for that either, unfortunately. Yeah, plus shrimp EV and crab legs I see in the chat. You guys must have been around for it. I'm interested. I'm muted. The excitement's lower because of the rake. All right, so if you do not want to play the Park West Classic or you do not make day 2, on Sunday they will be having a 50K guarantee super stack. So that one will count for the series, and that is a $300 buy-in. That starts at 11 a.m. So hopefully, Derek and I will not be playing that one, and we will be in the Park West Classic and eligible for the buffet.
If you're gonna play it this weekend, I definitely would either, obviously buy directly into the Park West Classic if you can afford it, but if not, like there are mega satellites running.
They have satellites all week.
Three on Friday. Looks like three on Thursday.
It's 3 on every day. It's
three on every
maybe
day.
Saturday, Sunday's not Saturday and Sunday, but 3 every day leading up to the weekend.
Yeah, definitely go fire some of those daddies because this is going to be a huge tournament. And again, like me and Ty mentioned this so much before, 1Ks are awesome because they're like this sweet spot of like a decently priced buy-in with very good structures and also pretty good players so that you actually learn, right? And it also feels, sometimes rewarding to beat a whole bunch of good players and chip a tournament. So definitely get out there and play this one.
Sure. Hey, Jeff here. I don't know if you mean our Player of the Year points, but Quantums don't count for our Player of the Year because of all the weird structure of them. So you don't get any points for buying to day 2. Now, one thing I want to mention about these satellites, if you can play during the week, I recommend it. I haven't, Frank needs to get us a little field reporting, but, Jeff's tournament evaluation points. Yeah. So, let me circle back around to that. So, as far as these satellites go, Frank, give us some info. Are they overlaying? Because all of the 3 satellites they run every day, they are all guaranteeing 5 seats per satellite. And the satellites on Friday night for these Quantums have been overlaying. The one for the Mini Mega on Friday night overlaid. The one for the 500K on Friday night overlaid by about a seat. So I can't imagine every single one of these weekday satellites are hitting their guarantees. So let us know, and if you want to play those, I recommend trying to get into one that seems like it might be less popular on the weekday. You might have an overlay.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that is my advice there. Now, as far as his tournament evaluation points, now I ran into Mark Spitarelli out at the World Series, and he mentioned that there's a website. I forgot the name of it. It had a really awkward name, and you can just pop in some values, some key values from a tournament, like the buy-in amount, the buy-in, the rake, certain key levels, certain how much it pays out, or percentages. And Frank says he does think he saw a couple overlays already. So yeah, if you can play satellites, do it early in the week, do it in unpopular times. But maybe that's it. Rainbow Puppies. That's a weird name. So there's a website you can go to. It might be Rainbow Puppies, and it will give you a score that will tell you how good they think a tournament is, as far as like how much play you get, how much value you get. And Jeff here, am I saying that right? Jeff is the fella who you might see playing in some of these tournaments with his book and a little, I think he had a World War II artillery once and a tank another time I played with him. Nice guy, very nice guy. He has created a spreadsheet that does the same thing, and I think he's actually created a website that does the same thing. So maybe he'll pop that link in the chat. And you guys, it's a pretty good thing. The scores, they look totally reasonable. All the things I saw getting high scores on there were ones that I was recommending I would think would be good. So definitely check that out. Yeah, they're all 5-seat guarantee, Frank, until you get to the weekend when there's a 10-seat guarantee. There's a 10-seat guarantee on Saturday, I believe. Yep, the Saturday one is a 10-seat guaranteed. Okay, so that's what's going on at the bike. It's all about that, and then as soon as that's over, next week we get the Mega Million starting. So we'll talk about that when we get to next week. So around town this weekend, not a ton going on this particular weekend. So it is August 15th, 13th right now. So this weekend over at Hollywood Park, we have just their regular kind of events. They have their bounty on Friday, 8K guarantee. They have their 3K guarantee on Saturday, and they have their 10K guarantee on Sunday with a afternoon smaller event also. The following week, though, like I said, the 23rd and 24th, they will be having much bigger guarantees. Having a 25K guarantee on Friday the 23rd and a 50K guarantee on Saturday the 24th. So that is probably where I will be on Saturday the 24th. Now over at Lucky Lady, They are just having their normal events this weekend, but Memorial Day weekend, they'll be having their 20K guarantee event, which is double their regular guarantee on August 31st. And then they'll be having a 10,000 guarantee on Monday, Labor Day, which is bigger than their typical Monday. Their typical Mondays only have 2,000 guarantees. Now, lucky lady, Vince, if you're watching, get on your website, do some updates. I'm very confused, and I'm sure others will be too. You need to do some proofreading here, my friend, because I don't know when I would come if I wanted to come, because it says September 2nd at 4 p.m. Here it says Monday day, September 2nd at 4 p.m. However, here it says September 2nd at 1 p.m. One of these is a typo. I'm guessing since you wrote 4 p.m. twice that the 1 p.m. is a typo. And then the other thing is that I'm assuming this is like a $150 tournament, $140. However, I only know that the hot dogs are $3. I have no idea how much this tournament is to enter. So please, please update this page with some information. Let the people know. Maybe someone in the chat knows, they can let our listeners know. But please get on there, update this stuff. People have, I have no idea what's going on. Yeah, Jeff's in there. Jeff, tell him what to do. So the other thing I got to say, if you're watching, Vince, please put your structures out here on the site. This website gives the very basic info, which is all right. But if you're really trying to, look serious, like tournament players need to see the structure. People like Jeff need to be able to put it into their calculators, and it's not right to make them show up to get it. So. Yep. Same with Hollywood Park. Yep. They don't put their I think they might have some of their structures available online at Hollywood Park, but in general, Hollywood Park is not very good about it. And here's the other thing, Hollywood Park. What's going on Labor Day? I have no idea what your Labor Day event is, because it happens to be right at the beginning of next month, and you don't put your schedules up online until like a day before the month's up. So, guys, look, help us out. Help us out. The people that want to play, the people that want to promote, the people that want to tell people. Help us out. All right.
Okay. Trying to amplify your schedules here.
Yeah, seriously. But you got to put them out, or we can't know. All right. So that is what's going on this weekend. That's what's going on next week. Whew. I don't know about you, but I'm tired, man. I think I'm just thinking about that hand all week. It's just been wiping me out.
Yeah, I'm definitely wiped out for sure.
All right. Yeah, Jeff, get on those guys. Get in there and help them out. We don't have time to go to every casino. I go to Lucky Lady sometimes, but yeah, tell him, man. Tell him. And tell him we're still willing to help him tweak his schedule, or just copy the one from the Gardens, honestly, for their structure. All right. Anything else? You got any parting words for us, Derek?
No, hopefully we'll see all of you at the Park West Classic. Not only is it going to be an amazing tournament, big prize pool, lots of satellites, but also this is going to be our way of really showing that a normal non-quantum tournament can get a huge turnout, and just keep giving all these operators more and more signal. And plus, they made a player-friendly schedule. Day 2 on Sunday ends the tournament, right? So let's just come out and show them these are the tournaments that we want.
Yep. They did the schedule great for the Park West Classic, man. All of you who were planning to buy in Day 2 Mega Millions, please just throw every bullet into this one instead. Maybe you get through on the first and then you still have time, but like other than that, just bomb this tournament. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for everyone in the chat. It's been fun. Thanks for showing up, Jeff. Thanks, Julie. Thanks all of our buddies. We will see you next week, and hopefully we will see you at the Park West tables. So looking forward to seeing you at the tables, guys.
Thanks, everyone. See you at the tables.